Hello everyone and welcome back to Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. It's a pleasure to see you all again. I'm very new to BookTube and I've been absolutely addicted to watching people's videos, and I'm so fascinated by all these tags going around that I thought I'll try and make my own original one. I hope people don't think that's too presumptive being so new, but I have a lot of questions I'd like to ask a lot of booktubers, so I thought, what better way to do it than perhaps by making my own tag. I really hope it's original. Maybe some of the questions aren't, but in the format that they're in, it might well be. I have tried to look around to see if it is, and actually the hardest thing, apart from coming up with the questions and actually coming up with my own answers to my own questions as well, was quite difficult, was giving it a name. So I've gone with a rather boring name called, I'm going to call it the what tag, because every single question starts with what. So very imaginative, I know, but if anyone has a better name for it, please, feel free to change it. So I've come up with 10 questions that I will ask and answer myself, and then I will tag 3 people at the end of the video who I hope will give it a go, and it might be quite interesting to see what people's responses are. So the first question is, what is the oldest book that you own? It doesn't necessarily have to be the book you've had the longest, but the actual oldest book in terms of publication. I was thinking about this, and I think the oldest book I own is The Anatomy of Melancholy. Obviously not one of the early editions, as it was, when was it first printed? I think about 1620 or something like that, so certainly back in the olden days. The copy I have is from around 1860. It's a single volume. It's quite a strange book, in that it's kind of what is it really? A guide to life. I haven't read it because the copy I have is in quite bad condition. I remember back in high school for my American friends, or sixth form for my British friends, that we came across it. We started talking about it, and it sounded very interesting to me. And I was in a second-hand bookshop in my town back in England, and I came across it in a box. And it was in horrendous condition, but the price was really cheap. I can't remember; it was maybe about £5, something like that. And when I took it up to buy it, the shopkeeper looked rather dismayed that he had put the wrong price on it when he saw what it was. So he probably wasn't very organised. Excuse me, you can probably hear Elvis barking in the background. Well, I suppose, this is Book Time with Elvis, so I suppose he's entitled to give a contribution. So yeah, I was very lucky to get it. I think even if I had it repaired, it would still probably be worth something, minus the repair costs. The next question I've got is, what is the most sentimentally valuable book that you own? For me, this would be The House at Pooh Corner by A.A. Milne, because it is probably the book I've owned the longest, one of the first books that was given to me that I still have. And it was a book that was read to me by important people in my life, such as my grandmother and my parents, of course. And, I still have that copy. And, I hope I hope I always will. The third question, what was the last book that you gave someone as a gift? I realized when I was thinking about this, I haven't given many bookish gifts for a while, probably because they're quite expensive to send, though the last one I did give was probably Christmas about 2 years ago, where I bought a book called The Almanac, a seasonal guide. And it's basically a guide to the seasons in England. In the English countryside, when to plant particular flowers or vegetables, what time you can see certain animals, and all this kind of stuff. It's a very charming book, and I believe they print one every year, and I bought one for my mother for Christmas a couple of years ago. So that's The Almanac, a seasonal guide. The fourth question is, what book has given you a sleepless night? Again, there have probably been a few, but the one that sticks in my mind is the book The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. I'm not sure if this is a horror book. I think it might be. I'm not a big horror reader, though I'm very open to to reading certainly recommended horror books. It's a gothic, maybe it is a gothic horror, I suppose, but this book kind of disturbed me a little bit. It's a bit ridiculous. I'm a 40-year-old man, and I had to stop reading this book at night because I couldn't sleep after reading it. I won't spoil anything. I'm sure a lot of you have read it. It's quite a popular book over the last few years, but that's the one that kind of disturbed me the most in recent years, The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. My next question: what 3 literary characters would you most like to have dinner with, and why? Again, very difficult question. Sorry about that. Well, for some of you, though, it might be easy. I was racking my brains, and I'm sure if I asked myself this question on another day, I'd probably have a different answer. But at the moment, I would choose Long John Silver, because I think he would be great, some amazing stories to tell about, life on the 7 seas and all the adventures he had, and I think he'd be great storytelling value. The second choice would be Bertie Wooster, because I find P.G. Wodehouse's books extremely funny, and Bertie Wooster would be great entertainment value. He also plays the piano, and he could provide some music for the evening, and I think it would be quite a lot of fun. And the last one is the character Precious Ramotswe from the Alexander McCall Smith books, The Number One Ladies Detective Agency. I find her a very charming character. She's from Botswana. She started Botswana's first and only ladies detective agency, and I think she would have some amazing stories to tell about her own adventures dealing with different crimes in Botswana. And she always comes across as quite a sweet lady, and I think it would be an interesting contrast to have her and Long John Silver sitting at the same table. Question number 6 would be: what book would you most like to live in for a year? So what story or place in literature would you most like to spend 1 year living in? I've gone, maybe it's strange, I'd love to visit some of the historical books, but I suppose there's no guarantee that I wouldn't be, killed immediately after setting foot there or something like that. So I'm going to be a bit cautious, and I'm going to go with another series by Alexander McCall Smith, which is the Portuguese Irregular Verb series, and I mentioned this in my top 20 novels tag that I did. They're funny books about life in German academia, and I think it would be kind of a lot of fun to spend a year at Regensburg University hanging out with the funny and eccentric characters from this book. So the Portuguese Irregular Verbs would be the book that I would most like to live a year in today. Perhaps that could change tomorrow. Next question, number 6. What deceased author would you like to have resurrected, and why? For this one, I've gone with the author Patrick O'Brian. I really recently just got into his Aubrey Maturin series. I'm on book 6, and I really, really love them. And I understand the last book, book 21, I think it is unfinished. That would annoy me a little bit, so I would rather like to have him resurrected so he could come back and finish it. And plus, they're the kind of books I feel I could read all my life, so it might be nice to have some further adventures as well. So the author I would resurrect would be Patrick O'Brian. Number 8. What book turned out to be the biggest surprise for you? I've gone with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and I'm not saying that I find it amazing, but I did quite like it, but I didn't expect to. It all started off when I was a young English teacher in Japan, and one of my teenage students came up to me and she said she would like to read it, and could I help her? And of course, to help her, I had to read it myself. And for years I'd been putting it off. I'd seen loads of people reading it on the tube in London, and all these adults reading it, and I thought, look at these guys reading a children's book and all this kind of stuff, or it's not going to be very good, it's overhyped and all this stuff. I read it, and I have to say it sucked me in. I think it was within a day of finishing it, I boarded unfortunately not a bullet train, but a fairly fast train to the next biggest city and bought all of the available books in the series that I could, that were published actually at the time, and brought them back and couldn't stop reading them. I haven't reread them. I think I'll never capture that kind of surprise and magic that I got at reading them the first time. They might be controversial for people, it's maybe an easy choice, but I have to say that I really was surprised by them, much better than I expected. Okay, number 9. What book that has already been published do you wish that you had written? For me, I've gone with the book Birdsong by Sebastian Faulks. I think this is a very beautiful book, and it's one of the few books that really moved me when reading it. It's a beautiful book. I mean, I could go for Harry Potter and, of course, take all the money that came with it, which would be nice. But no, I'll have to stay true to, my first instinct. I kind of regret not putting Birdsong on my list of top 20 novels, actually, now I think of it. But it was a beautiful book, and I think if I could have written one, then it would have been that one. And then the last question number 10, what book has had the most influence or impact on your life so far? Now, for this, I haven't gone for a novel. I've gone for the book Mother Tongue by Bill Bryson. And the reason being is I'm an English teacher, and this is a book about the story of English. And I would say it has impacted me and affected me and influenced me, because it gave me a love for my language, and I felt that it was extremely interesting. I was fascinated, by the stories and anecdotes that he told in there regarding the formation of the English language. And I would say it kind of partly pushed me, or is partly responsible for me becoming an English teacher. And as that is my job and it's the way I make my money, it certainly had a very big influence on my life. So there we are. Those are my 10 questions for the imaginatively named What tag. And I would really love it if some of you answer them as well. I've tagged 3 people who I hope will give it a go. And as I say, I do hope it's original. I might be completely wrong, and people will be like, oh God, not these old questions again, but we'll see. So I've tagged 3 people that I would like to do it. I've tagged Vin at Revenant Reads. I've tagged Brian at Bookish. And I've tagged Misa at Books and Sushi. So if you guys give it a go, that would be great. I'll be really happy. And thank you, as always, for stopping by and listening. And I hope, as I say, that I haven't kind of overstepped or overreached myself by coming up with a tag and being so new. So I hope that's all right. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.